Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. Just give me a second and I will start live streaming. And thanks everyone for joining. This webinar is like very much in demand, and we have actually brought back this topic. Originally, it was done by Eric Hansen, but this time, who's like the director of product marketing here at SingleStore, product management here at SingleStore. Very sorry about that. Uh, but obviously, Akmal is here to represent this. Topic with a little bit of more tweaks. So yeah, we are going to present how to do full text search with, I think it's going to be Lucene version, right, Akmal? All right. So good stuff. So thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, I think we are. So if you like this topic and want more context about today's webinar as well, I have added a link and a QR code for our, oh, it seems like the link. Okay, so this, you can just scan the QR code and it will directly take you to the landing page. If you want more information about today's webinar, and on 18th, which is I think day after tomorrow, we are presenting Apache Spark plus OpenAI for personalized banking services. It's a very in-depth webinar for someone who's interested in something related to fintech, how AI is applicable there. Amazing session if you want to join. And obviously, Akmal will be the speaker over there. So if you like today's session, feel free to tune in for more good stuff that's going to come up. And on December 20th, we have a very practical, popular topic that seems to work uh, like resonate very well amongst a lot of people. It's called Accelerate MongoDB Apps for 100x Fast Analytics and AI. So everything is there on your screen. You can just directly go to the landing pages using the QR code and you'll be good to register. The thing is that we also have an register button that's present on our webpage. So if any of these topics are interesting to you and you don't feel like, going through the hassle of registering for everything over and over again, you can just, click box the auto RSVP button, and that is going to, sign you up to get emails regarding all the resources that are relevant for the webinar. So stay tuned for that. So, Akmal, can you please go to the next slide? If you want to have a hands-on session today, you can follow along in real time so that you can obviously make the most out of your time. And just try SingleStore, which is obviously it's absolutely free. You don't need a credit card, anything. So just simply click on the link. If you're already with us, you don't need to create an account again. And we have a free shared tier. So like you can follow along with the demo. I'll be providing the resources to everything in the chat. So if any of this stuff is relevant to you or yeah, just an FYI that you all are currently in a listen only mode. And if there's any questions, concerns, feel free to use the Zoom Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your console. We like to have an active discussion during the webinar, so feel free to ask anything. And obviously, Akmal can see the questions. He can also answer them whenever it's possible. I'll also try my best to chime in if the questions get too much. So, yeah. Today's speaker, you might know that Akmal is a very regular speaker here at our webinars, and he has been very kind to do this webinar here. It's he's actually out of office, so he's been very kind to do these webinars for us. And thanks, Akmal, for that, because I know it's holiday season and but this really like we get like a lot of feedback from folks that these free resources actually really helps us. So yeah, if you have any feedback regarding today's session, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. You can email me, you can reach out to us at team@singlestore.com. Feedback, you have any doubts, questions, you need more resources, just let me know and we are there to help you. So Akmal, please take it away and thank you so much for joining.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Yuki. And thank you all very much for joining. I was just looking at myself in the camera there and noticed my glasses are reflecting very badly on the light. So sorry about that. I can't really do much about it where I'm sitting. So anyway, you'll just have to bear with me for a little while. All right. So as Yuki just mentioned, let me just try and go back a sec. Okay, this go back here. So just to give you a bit of information, so for this Spark and OpenAI, which we're doing on the Wednesday, I'll be using Spark for kind of streaming, if you like, and we'll create some dummy data and then create some embeddings from that using OpenAI. Kind of an interesting problem and an interesting challenge. I struggled with it a little bit, but managed to get it working. And then for the Mongo stuff, well, that's pretty good stuff anyway, because for analytics, SingleStore is vastly superior. I mean, it says 100x. Actually, some queries can run up to 1000x faster. Okay, so if you are a Mongo user, for example, that might be very relevant to you. Okay, and as Yuki mentioned there, so singlestore.com/cloud-trial. So she will share the link to the GitHub repo. We'll be doing a bit of hands-on work, and I'll actually try and run through it myself as well, rather than showing it to you, because the code is fairly straightforward and a lot shorter than some of the webinars we've done recently. Okay, so I'd highly encourage you. Let me just get you over here. Okay, so this, okay, there we go. singlestore.com/cloud-trial. Very simple to sign up. Okay, if you haven't done so already, you can use Google, Microsoft, or as I always say, the old-fashioned way, first name, last name, company email address. Actually, it will, I think, happily accept Gmail, live.com, Outlook, and so on. And then just do continue. There's a wizard. It will ask you a couple of questions, and then you should get an email confirmation. Just click on that, verify that you are human. And once you do that, it will take you to the portal. Okay. And the portal will look something like this. Okay. So you will get a welcome message here. Okay. It's your account name on the right-hand side. And just two things that you need to know that will be useful for today is on the left-hand nav, you can see something here called deployments. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. Okay, and the other one is a little bit further down. It's Data Studio here. Okay, let me just highlight that for you. There we go. Okay. The key thing to note, and let me just show you this, okay, before I move on to the slide so that you can do some prep work and you're all ready to go. So if you haven't signed up, do that, please, okay? And if you check in deployments, you should see as you sign in, there should be a free shared tier already running for you. So you should have the compute resources and there should be a database for you already running, okay? So this is sufficient for today, and you don't need to do anything else, okay? Now, you will need the notebook, and I think Yukti will share the link in the chat. And this is where this Data Studio on the left nav is important. So we've verified that we've got our compute and database already running. That's done automatically for you now. And if I just click on Data Studio here, you can see that I actually have the notebook running here. I've actually got two versions. So I've got one that I've pre-run and one that I've a copy which I've cleared all the variables and the state and everything, just so that I can run through it with you. And what you need is this thing here. Okay, you should see this automatically browse. Okay, let me just see if we can get that. Okay, and on the right hand side you can see this big purple box. Okay, and if we click on this, there's two options here: new notebook or import from file. And it's the second option that you want. Okay, import from file. It's just a wizard. Okay, so download the Jupyter notebook, please, and then you can just drag it into this box here. Okay, if you wish, or just use the browse files here to use the navigation on your computer to locate the file and just upload it. You have the option to put it into a shared area or personal. I usually select personal. I think they flip these around. So personal, you should be used to be on the top, I think, from memory. And then once you do that, this excuse me, this button here will become active, and you just say import. Okay. So that's all you need to do. And once you've done that, it will look something like this. Okay, so we'll come back to this shortly and we'll work through it together. There we go. So if you can do that whilst I'm talking, and I haven't got too many slides. Okay, so I'll show you a few. Let's just go back to the slides. There we go. Okay, so that's me on the right hand side, and You can see the agenda here, fairly short, a little bit of an introduction. We'll talk about this simplifying database sprawl, and then we'll go straight to the demo, okay, and then summary. All right, so there we go. So two standard slides that I always like to show, okay? So a little bit of a history of the company. So a long time ago, started off in 2011, company and the product used to be called MemSQL. You may remember us from that time, focusing purely on in-memory processing for OLTP. Subsequently, some years later, added OLAP support, columnar store, and then obviously it kind of didn't make sense to call yourself MemSQL anymore. So the rebrand took a little bit of time, but some years later, 2020, rebranded to SingleStore. Couple of other milestones there you can see. So 2021, multi-model, JSON analytics, okay. But notice here, vector search plus full text search was added way back in 2017. And we'll focus on the vector search today. Finally, we are a $100 million ARR, annual recurring revenue company, and have over 400 global customers today. And then from a high level, this kind of perspective, this concept of universal storage, okay, so a single table type that can deal with
Akshay,
both
can I
OLTP
interject?
and OLAP.
So we have a question from Priyanka. So
Yeah.
basically, they're trying to sign into SingleStore and they say that they have logged in. Like, obviously, once you complete the intro, like, can you please go back and just tell them that how to get the Jupyter notebook running?
Yes, we'll do
Awesome.
that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Thanks, Yuki. Please monitor the questions, okay? And then if there's anything urgent, just jump in and
Yeah,
raise it.
absolutely.
So
Because I
we'll
figured
flag
like a
that.
lot of,
Yeah.
right, right. I
Great.
figured
Thank
that a
you.
lot of people might have this doubt. So that's why.
Yeah. So
All
let me
right.
just, yeah, we'll sort that out. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right then. So universal storage, okay. And then the ability to connect to external tools, Kafka, for example, for streaming, Spark, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. Actually, I think Yuki's got Kafka in the works for a webinar early in January as well. So if you're interested there, we'll take a look at that. But then other sources as well, such as S3, Hadoop, HDFS. And in fact, today, we're going to be using an S3 bucket to load some data into our environment and using a pipeline, okay? So that data is actually in JSON format, and I'll show you in the notebook how we get that in. It's about 1,000 rows, okay, which is enough for our purposes today. And so you have this concept of pipelines, okay? This animation here. So in parallel, at scale, being able to ingest data into the database system there from a variety of external. And remember, this is not exhaustive, okay? This list is just some of the technologies we integrate with, just to give you some examples. We work on all three major cloud providers in the Western world, and today we are going to be using AWS. Okay, so we can run on-prem. There is a Docker container as well, but just signing up for this free account is the easiest way to get started. Nothing to install locally. It's all browser-based, and everything runs in the cloud, which is really saves you a lot of time and effort. The multi-model capabilities. So at its heart, it is a relational database management system, but does other things as well. Geospatial support, which we've covered in the past. Time series, again, we've covered in the past. JSON. We have customers actually using it for key value as well. A little bit unusual, I'd say. I mean, the capability is there, but in the recent past, I've actually come across one or two customers that are using it in that capacity as well. And of course, vectors, which we've really done to death in the recent past. Lots of support for vector in the webinars, and of course the focus for today is the full text search. Okay, and this is the update, the JLucene version, which really goes far beyond the existing sort of support that we have. Okay, and there's some awesome capabilities there which we'll talk about. And then just to wrap it up here, real-time decisions, AI apps, dynamic experiences, dashboards. Because we have a built-in Jupyter environment, if you are familiar with packages such as Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, Plotly Go, Plotly Express, very easy to create visualizations from Python. Equally, if you use technologies such as Tableau, for example, and you want to create these visualizations there, then JDBC, ODBC support is there. Just connect, and within minutes, you can be creating charts and graphs. My personal favorite there is Metabase. It's free. It's just a jar file. You download it. You just need Java, and then just plug in the connectivity details for the cloud, for where SingleStore is running, and your credentials. And again, within minutes, you can be creating pie charts and bar graphs and so on. Okay, and just analyzing the data. Okay, so one of the benefits with SingleStore is this ability to deal with this problem of database sprawl. So, maybe you start off with a database system and you've got some batch ingest. Okay, you're creating some applications. Then perhaps you need some operational support as well. JSON, very popular data format today for exchanging information as well as for storage, as well as, there are document-based systems out there, MongoDB, Couchbase, and so on. Perhaps you need some caching. Okay, maybe you use Redis. Redis is a popular choice for acting as a sort of cache for, sitting in front of MySQL or MariaDB. Elastic for search. Okay, Solar as well. There are open source alternatives there as well. Maybe you need that capability as well. And perhaps streaming data coming in through Kafka. And then analytics, perhaps using some warehouse technology. Here we've got Snowflake as an example, and then maybe some machine learning and AI through Spark. So, I mean, this looks very congested. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there, and a lot of integration is down to you as a developer. Wouldn't it be easier if you could simplify that? And this is what SingleStore provides, this process of just giving you a single product that can do all of these, the batch ingest, okay, the operational support, integration with third party, a couple of those you saw in the previous slide there, streaming data, very easy to work with Kafka, for example, S3, transactions and analytics built in. We talked about that in an earlier slide. Support for Spark, which we'll look at a little bit on Wednesday, for example, as well as all these awesome multi-model capabilities. And so from a business perspective, this makes your life easier in terms of licensing, reducing the total cost of ownership, improving your return on investment. And from a developer perspective, again, makes your life easier because now there is just one product to learn. Okay, you can, I mean, it's that kind of 80-20 rule, right? So SingleStore, of course, there will be products on the market that will focus exclusively on some particular aspect. So in the vector space, for example, you see there are pure vector databases, and that's all they pretty much do, all right? But in the real world, typically you're going to be doing a lot of different types of processing, okay? You have different users who have different requirements, workloads, etc. And SingleStore can deal with those. And it may be the case that, SingleStore is suitable for the vast majority of those workloads. Of course, there may be specific cases where it may not be suitable, okay? You may have some very extreme sort of requirement, in which case a dedicated product might be what you're looking for. But, this is what a lot of our customers are seeing, a lot of them are doing at the moment. Okay. And so with the full text, especially with the JLucene that's been released and the support now available in SingleStore, so essentially what you're getting is in SingleStore, you are getting that, plus the transaction support we talked about, plus the vectors and the JSON and the analytics. And, if you compare that to the just the full text technologies, I mean, that's all they do. And actually, you could use the analogy here and just replace JLucene with, say, vectors, which we talked about a few moments ago, or just JSON, for example, right? So this is the advantage that SingleStore gives you in terms of its wide range of capabilities, the different technologies that it supports, and they are all built in and they are interoperable. Okay, so the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It's the ability to use all of these technologies together, which makes it pretty awesome. All right, then. So let's move on to the demo. Okay, so hopefully you are able to sign up, okay, just using this process. And the two things, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and Yuxi kind of highlighted that some of you are having a little bit of difficulty. So as you create your account and you've verified and you've logged in, you should see something like this. Okay, there will be a welcome message. Okay, oops, pardon me. It's just trying to be too clever. So you'll see something like this. Okay, and your organization will be here on the right-hand side. Okay, and then on the left nav, you can see, as I highlighted, there's two things that you want. One is deployments. Okay, this thing here. And the second thing is Data Studio. You can see there's lots of other things there as well in terms of, but today we don't have the time, unfortunately. Just keep an eye on the time. We're already at 6:20 my time. Okay, the Data Studio is the other one, all right? So under deployments, just make sure if you click the button there that you can see that you have running compute and a database, okay? Automatically, if this is a new account, that will be provisioned for you. You don't have to do anything, okay? Basically, you just log in, you've checked that these are available, you hit the ground running. There's nothing to configure. Now, in the event that you find that the free shared tier is insufficient for your needs, and at the top here, it does highlight the limitations that you have here, okay? So 10 times tables, 1 GB compressed storage. Right? Now you might say, well, okay, that's not a lot, but trust me, I mean, I use it very frequently for the vast majority of webinars today. It is enough, okay? It's enough to get started, dip your toe in the water, try out the technology. If you need something more substantial, just select this thing here. There's a pull down at the top, okay? And if you select this, you can see here, one option is says here, new deployment. Okay, and if I click on this, you can see here that it shows me that the starter is ghosted out because I already have that running. You're only allowed one of those, so you cannot provision another one. Okay, but if you look on the right-hand side, standard is available. All right. So as part of the sign up process, you get the equivalent of 600 US dollars worth of credits. And here you can see you've got it's much more configurable. You can see now I can choose a variety of things, such the workspace group name. I'll take the default there. I can choose my cloud provider. Again, I'll stick with AWS for today, but I can choose GCP and Azure as well. And then I've got the option to choose the region. So because I'm based in London, I may well decide that something that's physically closer, Europe West 2, for example, is going to be the best option here. And just select next down at the bottom here. Okay. And then here under size, it gives me some configuration options. So the default, the smallest size that you have is this S00, which contains 2 virtual CPUs and 16 gigabytes of RAM. And because it's in London, this will burn through 0.28 credits per hour. And I can choose a bigger option. Okay, oops, again, just get my arrow here. If I choose edit, okay, I can choose something larger. So for example, if I want something substantially bigger, I could go for an S4 here. All right, and that will be 32 virtual CPUs, 256 gigabytes of RAM, and that will burn through 4.5 credits per hour. All right. Now, I don't need this, right? But just to give you and show you that what is available if
Atul, we
you need
have
it.
another question. Just
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So
Go
the
ahead.
question from one, they say that what is the 10x table that you mentioned earlier?
10 uh, tables. Okay. So it's this thing here. You are allowed 10 relational tables. Okay. That's the limitation. So in this free shared tier environment, you can create up to 10 tables. If you try to create an 11th table, it will tell you, no, you've exceeded the limits of what you have. You have to delete some tables. Today, we're not going to exceed that limit, okay? So that's what it is. I'll show that in a moment. Actually, I can do it now. So we'll demonstrate that in just a sec, okay? But this is fine, okay, just to get started. And so for Data Studio here, okay, that's the other option in the left nav here. If you go there, go over there, select Browse, okay, which is at the top. You should not see any of these tabs. I mean, I've got these here because I've been using this, all right? But if you select browse and then over on the right-hand side where it says new notebook, if you select that, you can see there's two options. Either create a brand new notebook from scratch or import from file. You select import from file, okay? And then just walk through the wizard to load the notebook that Yukti shared with you. And once you do that, it should load up and look something like this, okay? Now, just to show you what is that 10x referring to, one thing that you can do from the browse here is open a SQL editor. There's an option available here, as you can see, okay? So if you just click on that, it will open a SQL editor, and here you can type in SQL commands directly. So in this environment, because I've been running things previously, if I run this command here, okay, you can see this thing here, show tables. Okay, and I'm just gonna, it's selected currently, and I'm just gonna click on this, run. You see down here, it's given me a list of all the tables that it currently knows. So I've got a table called A, another one called B. I've still got something here called Chinese, cities, French. Okay, let's have a look. French with stop set, journals, sentences. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tables that I have. So I've still got the ability to create 2 more tables if I wish. If I go to and try and create an 11th table, it will tell me, no, you can't do that. You've exceeded the limit. And therefore, either I have to drop some tables or I just have to get by without creating another table. Okay, that's the key thing there. All right. All right, then. So hopefully you've all managed to get the notebook imported. All right. And the first thing just to check at the top here is make sure that your starter workspace and the database are selected. All right. If you decide to create some standard resources, you will have options available here to select more, but in this particular case, you can see it says shared tier and starter workspace. And for the database, because it's already created for me, it's just selected that automatically, okay? You do need these in order to be able to run the notebook, okay? Otherwise, the notebook doesn't know where to go. You're trying to run SQL commands, and it's got no database to connect to. So we must make sure that this is available at the top here, and something is selected here for us to use. All right. Okay, Yukti, any other questions there? Anyone else having difficulty there?
Yeah,
Or
actually, we have
are we
the
good?
question from Priyanka. They say that
Yeah.
do we need to add a new workspace? They're not able to figure out which option to click from Connect.
Connect. Okay, I think, let me just have a look.
I think it's their first time making an account, so
Right,
maybe.
no, I mean, there's no, you don't, I mean, the connect is here, right? It's shown here. No, you don't need to do anything. Nothing is required. What you want is just see that this box is available and this box is available. That's all you need. All right. So this is your compute resources and that's your database. All right. That's all you need. We're not going to go into these options today for connect. Okay. It's unnecessary. If you do want to connect from external, say a client, yeah, CLI client or an SQL IDE, you will need these things, but we are not, unfortunately, we don't have the time to go through those options today. Essentially, just make sure your compute and your database are there and visible in deployment. Nothing else to touch, okay? If it's running, that's good. You're good to go, okay? And then in Data Studio, as I said, just load your notebook in, okay, which I've done here. Right? This is actually a copy. So I've got two versions of this. One is I run through fully. This one, I cleared all the state and all the variables so that I can do it with you, okay, so that we can show you how things go. And as I said before, all you need to do is just check at the top here that your workspace and database are visible from this pull down. And if so, you are good to go. Okay. Nothing else to configure. You can see it's very, very straightforward. So you create your account, you log in, You should see your compute and database already there. Nothing to touch there. Hit the ground running straight away. Just use the browse button under Data Studio, locate the Jupyter notebook, upload it, and as you upload it, automatically it should appear as it does here. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Okay. All right. Yukti, please continue to monitor, okay, if anyone else is having difficulty. But let's get moving with this, okay? And don't worry too much. Remember, you'll get a link to the recording for this, and you can run through this in your own time. So if you just want to watch and then see what I do, that's okay too, okay? I mean, if it's a little bit frustrating for you and you can't get stuff working, that's all right. I mean, take a step back and then just watch. Hopefully that will help you as well. All right. So the first thing to do here is I'll just pip cache purge. I think strictly speaking, this is not necessary, but I like to stick this to the front of the notebook. Just clears out various packages and things and gives us a kind of clean state to start with. And so here we've got, as you can see, some markdown here, text search with Java-Lucene. So previously, SingleStore offered what's called version 1 based on C-Lucene. Okay, so that's the technology that we had. Now we've got this text search added support, okay, with Java-Lucene, JLucene, okay? And what are the benefits of JLucene? Well, some of the features that it provides, this BM25, okay, best match 25. It's an algorithm for scoring, okay? Things like fuzzy matching, okay? Proximity search, boosting. You can do text search on JSON documents as well. You can create indexes on those, paths, etc., and be able to search on those as well. And there are foreign language support and engrams as well. So if you're familiar with these concepts, I mean, this is just a partial list. I mean, the best place to go is actually look at the Lucene documentation. We have docs, obviously, as well on our website, and I'll show you the link for that in just a moment, where you can go. We'll look at some of these today. I mean, in the interest of time, obviously, I can't cover every possible feature or capability, but we'll try to cover some of the major ones, okay? And particularly, we'll start with this BM25 ranking. So what is this? Best Match 25. It is a ranking algorithm used in information retrieval that improves search relevance by considering term frequency, inverse document frequency, and document length normalization. Quite a mouthful there. Well, look at an example of that in a moment, okay? And then previously, what SingleStore supported in version 1 was this TF-IDF. Again, if you're familiar with text retrieval, information retrieval, this should be fairly familiar. Okay, so statistical measure used in text analysis to evaluate how important a word is to a document within a collection, balancing its frequency in the document against how common it is across all documents. And so the benefit that we get is that with BM25, it's a better approach than TF-IDF. Okay, that's the key thing. So it is a very high quality ranking function. It is used in other competitor and open source technologies such as Elastic, Solr, OpenSearch, for example. Good heuristics, okay? It better quality results compared to TF-IDF ranking, okay? And again, we're always looking for a better way to do things, okay? And this is where this comes in useful. So this is a very good intuitive scoring algorithm to find most relevant documents, which is what you want to do, okay? If you've got a large corpus of documents that you want to search and you want to be able to get the results back, this is a good approach, okay? Better than TF-IDF, as we mentioned. And it's also very good in certain situations. Sorry, my magnifier's not got everything there, but this concept of term saturation. So, for example, a document that mentions elephants 200 times isn't twice as relevant as one that mentions elephants 100 times, right? So you might have words that appear very frequently. And so this term saturation can be very useful in certain situations. Okay, you may find this very helpful in the kind of searches that you want to do. And just something I was thinking off the top of my head that came to mind way back. Let me just show you this, okay? This is way back in 1997 in the communications of the ACM, CACM, right at the back of the journal was publish this paper, very short one-page paper, the ultimately publishable computer science paper for the latter 1990s, a tip for authors, okay? And basically, if you read this, it just says blah, 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 Java, blah, 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 internet, World Wide Web. These are the kind of popular words of the day, okay? But blah, blah, blah is actually used almost entirely. Now, I think 90% of this, and it was meant as a bit of humor, as a joke, okay? And you can see there's a kind of Gary Larson cartoon there as well. And I was reminded very much of when I was, building the notebook, of this kind of phrase that, this kind of term saturation that you can get. And sometimes it doesn't add much value to it. And in this particular case, we may be able to utilize that in certain searches. It may be helpful to us when we're doing these. Okay. So the next thing to do then is we are going to create a table and we're going to ingest some data and have a look at it. Okay. So this is journals that are to do with dentistry. Okay. So we'll look at this. So the first thing to do is just drop the table if it already exists and then recreate it just below here. And it's got a couple of columns. So there is volume details, the name of the journal, the there's a couple of representations in terms of the name and we'll see this in just a moment, okay? And then the body, which essentially contains the text of that particular article that appeared in the journal, okay? And this is a long text because it can be quite substantial, and you'll see that momentarily when we take a look at that. And then on this, we are saying, okay, we would like to create a full text index, okay? Notice it says version 2, okay? To differentiate from version 1, which is what SingleStore previously had. So this is using the latest version, and I've given it a name. I've called it FTS_index, and I've told it, okay, I would like you to create a full text index on the journal and the text body, okay? So, sorry, the body of the article, okay, the long text. So if we run this, and you can run this by sort of shift enter, or you can use this arrow here to execute that cell. Okay, standard Jupyter stuff. So let's just run this. Okay. I've done this previously, and so in this particular case, it will drop the table and it will recreate it. So that's done for me now. So now I've got an empty table. And then what I can do here in the next cell is just say, okay, show me what indexes you've created on this particular table. So if I run this, you'll see that we've got a full text FTS index. Okay, that's the name I used. And then notice here, I've got it on the column name journal and on the body as well. And if I move to the right-hand side, you can see that the index type is full text. Full text, okay? So it's created that on the table for me on those two columns. That's going to be useful in a moment, okay? Now, the next thing to do is currently we've got no data. There's nothing for us to work with. And so what we're going to do, I mentioned pipelines a little bit earlier, and this is a mechanism that we can use to get data. In this case, happens to be an S3 bucket. And we're going to load in this file, which contains 1,000 records. And you can see here that because it's the JSON format, we are giving some instructions to the pipeline about what that mapping is from the JSON file. So volume will map to volume, name will map to name, journal to journal, and the body to body. Okay, so that provides it with enough information. And then here you can see, because it's S3, we've given it the region as well, which is US West 1. And here is the actual file. It's doc_1000.json. And if we run this, now that just creates the pipeline, right? So far, it hasn't loaded anything in. And so before we actually run the pipeline to ingest that data from that S3 bucket, we can say, all right, test the pipeline for me. Just show me what it's going to look like. And here in this command, I've just limited to one record. Okay, let me run this. Now, this one record, you can see it's run, and then I get this huge quantity of data appearing in this cell. So the reason for that is that the body of the text is kind of overwhelmed everything else there. So you can see I can keep going back. In fact, I mean, there we are. So these are the other columns I've got. Okay, you can see here some other information here, and so on and so on. Okay, and then this, all of that on the right hand side is the actual journal article. That is the body of text that is read in. So it's successfully connected. It successfully pulled back one record and it showed us what that one record looks like. So all is good so far. No issues there. So let me just scroll down again. Here you can see, I mean, obviously this is scientific journal. Okay, you can see here, these must be the references to other articles. So, you know, no, number 34, 35, 36, and so on, and the details of the articles that it's referencing. I think this particular one goes into over 100 citations. But anyway, so the body of the article, all the references, the entire article content itself, and then here we can say, okay, we are happy with this. Let's start the pipeline now. Please ingest that data into this table. And there we are. That was fast, 140 milliseconds. Just below, we can actually, ask the system, show us what pipelines you know about. And it says, okay, currently this thing called journal pipeline, it's running. Okay. And then just below here, we can say, all right, then show me how many records are in that table now. So have we got all 1,000 rows? And indeed we have. So you can see that was very fast. So it's ingested all 1,000 records, and it's done that in 140 milliseconds. So we now have, excuse me, some data in that table. And just out of interest, we could say, all right, let's take a look and see which journals are the most frequent. And this is what we're doing here. And then just limit it to 10. Okay, we're not interested in everything, but just tell us what the top 10 are. And we can see that obviously this particular journal here, okay, occurs 410 times. This is referenced 329 times. This one here, biotech, occurs 114 times. So this is good to know because sometimes when we're formulating queries, and if you want to try this out and test it out for yourself, it's kind of helpful to know, all right, these are the particular journals that occur very frequently, and therefore you might take the opportunity to just browse some of the articles and then pick some keywords if you want to test and verify that the index is working correctly. This, like I said before, this is on dentistry. Now, I know nothing about dentistry, but I've picked out some keywords just to be able to do this. The reason I wanted to choose this particular data set, as you can see, it's fairly substantial. Okay, it's got complete articles and a fair bit of text that goes with each article. So that's the key thing there. Because we know that the pipeline has been successful, at the moment it's still running, so we'll just stop it, okay? And then we'll drop it as well. So it's done its job. We don't need it anymore. And then finally, at this point here, where we've got this optimized table journals flush, when we create the indexes, they are kept in memory. But in order to run queries below, we flush write those to disk. Okay, let's do that. If you don't run that command and you try and run some of these queries below, you'll find is empty results, right? So it's important to run that to ensure that the indexes are available to be able to do these queries. And now we've got our data, we've got the full text indexes created, and we can start running queries on the data again. So here are a couple of examples that we've got. So we're saying in this first one, select the journal from the table journals and there do a match. Okay. In the body of the remember that long text, look for the word optometry and then, limit it to 5. Okay. Show me if you can find that. And here it says, okay, I've come up with 3 journals that contain that word optometry, and then it lists which particular journals they are. As you can see, one of those occurs twice. And we can take a step further then, say, how about if we were interested in looking for dentistry or teeth, okay? So you can see there that now we can combine, we can do and, or, for example. So we are looking for, show me all the examples, all the articles there. Well, in this particular case, we're just the journal. We don't want to return the article content. It'll just fill up the entire notebook with lots of text. I mean, if we wanted to drill down to that level, we could do, and you can easily amend the SQL statement there. But in this case, let's keep it simple, okay? So we're saying, all right, now find me anything that's got dentistry or teeth. And here you can see we've got examples here. We could put a distinct sort of clause in there just to limit it, but this shows us that there are 5 instances where we've got either dentistry or the word teeth appearing in articles. And then here, this example, we could do sort of wildcard as well. So, dentist asterisk star. So that would be dentists, plural, dentistry, anything that you can think of that would have dentist at sort of the beginning of that. And this is doing the, and equally, you could match a single character as well. You could use the question mark. So again here, you can see that it's matched four particular rows here. Okay, so a lot of this capability, this kind of match, was available in the previous version. Now let's take a look at an example where we're using the BM25. Okay, and here you can see this query is substantially more complex in terms of structure than what we've been doing just above. So we're saying, okay, from the journals table, we are interested in the journal and we want this, best match 25 score. So look for this particular pattern here, okay, in the journal, or aging, okay, and combine it with look for the word teeth in the body of the article itself, and then give us a score as part of that, okay, which is what the BM25 will do. And then notice here also we are saying where score. So essentially what this does is that if you didn't include that clause, it will give you everything with a 0.0 as well. So we're asking the system, make sure it's greater than 0, where there's actually something worth looking at, something to return. And if you do that, it's down just one instance here, you can see. So in this particular case, it's matched this, okay, or this journal, and the body of the article itself contains the word teeth. Okay, and you can play around with this. I mean, like I said, if you know something about dentistry, awesome. But it's worth looking at the data, looking at the structure. Maybe picking out some keywords, and then just trying your hand at some of these queries. And so in this particular case, like I said, if I took out the word score here, let me just see if I can comment that out and just say limit, say 5, see if that'll work. Okay, let's execute that. And there we go. Can you see what's happened is that because it's order descending, well, obviously the very first row is what we just saw previously. That's matched perfectly. But then all the rows below, can you see the score is 0? 0, 0. And if I didn't say limit 5, it will return 299 additional rows apart from that one. So that's a very useful clause to put in there just to say, all right, I mean, if you've got actually something to show me, if it's 0, ignore it. And that's what it's done there. So there we go. Okay, let's keep an eye on the time. Okay, we are at 6:50. Do a couple of other things. So fuzzy and proximity search. So here we've got a couple of examples, and we're going to create another sort of small table here. This is going to be for sentences. There we go. It's done that fast. And we're going to insert 2 rows here. Okay, so we've got one phrase, which is the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And the second one is Abel was I saw Elba. Okay. Is that a palindrome or something, I think. So we've inserted 2 rows. Again, we do our optimize table, flush, okay. And then here, notice that we are saying, all right, with this, you can see that it says BROW, okay? We're looking for the word brown, and we've given the option of one sort of additional character here. Notice the tilde mark there as well. There's a lot of information about how to use this, okay, in the documentation. We are really just skimping over this. And here it's just found the one sentence there. And this can mean it can mean adjustments in terms of insertions, deletions, and variations of this. Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility around this. And then for the second case there, in terms of proximity, we've got the phrase, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," and then we're saying, okay, here are three words: brown, quick, and fox. Can you find a combination of these three in the text that you've got? Is there any row that has got that? And if we do that, indeed it has, okay? So it's been able to find the one sentence that we have actually, okay? So you can see that the N specifies 3 there. Okay, so we go back there. Okay, so match quick brown fox. All right, so notice that the brown quick fox is I could equal say fox quick brown or something like that, and again specify 3 matches. Can you find me something that matches these 3 particular words in any order? And it's found one instance of that. Again, that could be very useful in terms of if you're searching and looking for some combination of words. Okay, let's quickly move on to foreign languages then. 80 foreign languages, major languages. I mean, it says foreign languages. I mean, what does that mean? Okay, if you're English speaking, everything else is a foreign language, right? Now, suppose if you're Chinese or Arabic, everything else is a foreign language. Okay, so 80 major languages, special tokenizers to deal with many of these languages. So here's just some examples: Arabic, Chinese, French, German, Hebrew, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, Turkish, and so on. Even white space, okay, programming languages as well. And why does this matter? Because in English, if you use that for everything, it's going to index common foreign words, okay? And so if you're a French speaker, for example, things like le and la, le, not correctly stem plurals, verb endings, etc., which means the index becomes bloated, slow, and gives poor recall, okay? So this support makes it really, really useful for dealing with foreign languages. And again, we've got these kind of custom analyzers available with things like stemming, for example, horses becomes horse, running becomes run, for example. And stop words, things that we really are not particularly interested in, like the, a, in English, for example. And again, you can see some examples there for French as well. Special analyzers available for some other use cases there: Wikipedia, emails, for example, whitespace, and things like n-grams, okay, which we'll look at below. So let's take a look at this French. All right, so this is going to use index option here. You can see is for the French language. All right, we've specified this as something else. So let's create the table. And then here we'll insert a couple of rows. That could be very, very helpful if you're traveling somewhere. And there we go. There's 2 rows that we insert. Okay, again, we do our optimize table, flush, and then here we could look for this particular phrase here, combien. Right? And that comes back straight away. The other thing is that, of course, different languages have different stop words. We just mentioned that above. So here, for example, we have the opportunity to actually customize the stop list as well. So there are default stop lists available as part of each language. But here, what we've done is to say, okay, we would like to create a stop list. Okay, and notice the word stop and stop 1. And this is not additive, okay? This replaces the default that's available. So essentially what you are creating is your own stop list, which the system will use instead of the default. So we can do that here as well. And let's take a look here. So we're going to insert 1 row into this table. Okay, stop 1 is the word that we added to our stop list just above here specifically. right? And again, we do the optimized table flush. And then here, we're going to search for that phrase. Now, this phrase is in our stop list, okay? So it should ignore it. And as you can see, the result set is empty. We get nothing back, okay? But equally, we could search on another phrase that's in that particular sentence, and it should return that to us. It does that. If you're from South Asia, Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, it might be worth investigating support for those languages. But here, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, for example, and this is done through this analyzer here, CJK, obviously Chinese, Japanese, Korean, okay? Okay, we can create that, and we insert a couple of rows here. You can see this is to do with something to do with beers. I think I did use Google Translate a little bit earlier on, okay? So add those. Again, do our optimized table flush. And then here you can see we're specifically trying to match this. Again, phrase related to beer. And can we find anything? Well, because both of those two sentences above contained it, we get the result back. And because we are actually scoring this now here as well, you can see the score value being returned as well in this particular case. So that, again, could be very useful if you're working with different languages. So not just English support anymore, but, like I said, 80 different languages that could be very, very useful. And then finally, just let's wrap up with n-grams, okay? Partial matching, useful for autocomplete, type ahead features. Many years ago, well, not that long ago, but some years ago, I did a Coursera course, and the final project was to build a kind of a text entry system that allows you to search a corpus, and then you're using this concept of n-grams as well. Predict what the next word is going to be, and then it could be like 3 or 4, and then this is very useful here again for partial matches, type ahead, autocomplete, those kind of applications. So all we need to do in terms of the index option here, as you can see, we just mentioned to the tokenizer n-gram here. Okay, so we add that. And then we're going to add a couple of rows, 2 cities to this table. So Seattle and Vancouver, both of which I've been fortunate to visit in the past. Again, we do our optimized table cities flush. And then here we are searching against this table. Notice that the word Seattle is misspelled. Okay, can you see it's missing a T? But because we are using this, it's still able to retrieve that for us. And that gives us as the top answer there, the best match. So again, that could be useful. And sometimes we do mistype things. Yeah, it's a common mistake. We misspell, mistype. And so even in those situations, the system can handle that and does that well for us. And then finally, there's lots of other interesting token filters as well. Like I said, have a look at the documentation. It contain huge amount of additional things. Snowball Porter, stemming for multiple languages, lowercase, convert tokens to lowercase, strip HTML. That could be really useful, particularly if you're storing or working with HTML documents. You want to be able to get those into your database system. And this thing here, how to pronounce that? Okay.
Elision.
Elision. There we go. So just a couple of examples there. Okay, so just show you the tables structures there. I didn't insert any data there, but just to show you how we could utilize those. And again, this is one of those things, for example, where you are just removing, like, for example, in French, we are removing the L and the apostrophe. So instead of l'avion, we have avion, okay? That's what it's doing there. Or in English, if you say have something like I'm I'm trying to name escapes. It's the I like this. All right, so we get rid of this, and we get rid of this. Okay, that's not going to be very useful, particularly. But in the case of the French, yes. I mean, the plane and plane, right? L'avion, avion. All right, there we go. And then finally, other things, text search on JSON, that's available too. And I would highly recommend have a look at the documentation on SingleStore. And if you're wondering where this is, just do a quick search using your favorite text engine. Okay, SingleStore, full text search. It will first hit will bring you this. So lots of other great stuff to look at here. The JSON, it goes into far more detail than we've had the opportunity to do. I mean, I've just scratched the surface today, but there's more here that you can look at. The data set that you've loaded in, like I said, dentistry, it's great in terms of lots of text to play around with, but you do need to have a little bit of knowledge about the subject area, I think. I mean, I picked a few queries that we could do, and it's given us some results. But if you have something else that you want to use and you're more familiar with, by all means, use that instead. Okay, that will be much better for you. All right, great. So we've got a little bit longer than I expected, but hopefully that's been useful for you. So as I said before, I think Yukti shared the link to the GitHub repo for you, and the documentation on the website is the best place to really drill down into this and look at this in far more detail. I think we can stop there, and Yukti, I can just wrap up. So essentially what you've got is, in terms of developer needs, well, you want to work with text search, you want to work with vector search, and you want to work with hybrid search. Well, SingleStore has provided vector search earlier this year, the indexing. The text search has now been updated, which is what we looked at today. And you can actually combine these approaches as well, which gives you the opportunity to use vector search and full text search together. That gives you, again, lots of power, lots of flexibility. And just to wrap up then, essentially what you have in SingleStore is the ability to use vectors, SQL, full text, all the other great stuff, geospatial, time series, key value, all built into the same product. There's no data movement. It saves you money and time. Okay, if you're a business person, you improve your return on investment, lower your total cost of ownership. From a developer's perspective, single product contains everything, makes your lives easier. No need to spend time integrating all these technologies together, which you saw in the database sprawl that we discussed earlier. Lots of powerful tools. SingleStore can help you. Okay, we have this Go Live acceleration program. We can handhold you. My colleagues in the solutions engineering team can assist you here. The customary, we are hiring. singlestore.com/careers/jobs. If you're interested, please have a look at that. And then my favorite quote from Arthur C. Clarke: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Okay, and thank you. Okay, Yukti, we've got some time for some questions. I think take a couple of questions before we finish off. Let me have a look, see if we can help. Okay. Let's have a look.
Meanwhile, when Akmal is having a look, so
Yeah,
like he'll just select the question. I know that we are a little bit over time, so we
yeah,
can
we
just
can just
spare
take.
2, 3 more minutes,
Yeah.
and definitely we can, answer more questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the Zoom Q&A button, which is present at the bottom of your console, to pour in any questions that you might have. And thanks for sticking around till the end of the session. Akmal, just to get you started, like a lot of people have questions regarding the PM25 score. Actually, ITC, two
Yeah,
questions. Like, does it mean confidence score, and how is it calculated?
yes, that's right. So remember, best match. So it's calculating a score based on what it has found, the best match possible. I think the detailed explanation is kind of beyond the scope of what, I mean, if you're interested, you can just Google it, search it. Or if you want more details, just look at the Lucene implementation. They will go into it in far more detail than we have. I think if we check the documentation, which is on our page. Let's just have a look. Here we are, BM scoring. Okay, it's a relevancy score. So if we go down here, okay, it gives you a bit more, and there is a link here where you can find details, okay, and lots of examples of this as well. Syntax operators, and it goes into far more detail than we have time to go through today, unfortunately. But yes, it gives in the sense that we are just looking for the, remember, BM is best match, yeah? Okay, so it's an algorithm to give us the results there. There's a question here about authenticating to S3. No. So in this particular case, it's open, right? So there's no need to provide any credentials. So I'll keep that's hopefully that's answered your question. How can we do the natural language search query on top of this integration? For example, title like foo, bar. Yeah, so that's a great question, Shadi. So you're asking about how to take it a step further. We can do the and or those kind of queries and combine them together. In this particular case, remember, that is what the Jluceene provides and what our implementation is able to demonstrate. If you want to build something on top of that, you'd have to build that yourself. How could you do that? Well, think about, say, something like LangChain, for example, which already contains our full text integration anyway. And then maybe you could use the SQL Database Toolkit, for example, as a way to ask queries in natural language to the database system, and it can, it will go away and calculate what that, the weight is, the score is, and you probably need an LLM or some way to be able to create vectors and ask the system queries that way. That might be one way to do it. But essentially, at the moment, I mean, there's no NL implementation that we have. It's something that you would need to build yourself. There are plenty of good tools out there that I think would assist in that process. And equally, you can combine this with vectors as well. How does full text compare to other platforms like Elastic, Solar, or OpenSearch? It is competitive. Yeah. So those systems contain implementations of JLucene as well. We have the implementation of JLucene is competitive with those systems as well. Now, in terms of benchmarks and those kind of things, performance, if you're looking for those kind of numbers, I believe some of those commercial systems prohibit the publication of benchmark numbers. So if it's something that you're looking for and you'd like to do a competitive a kind of head-to-head, we are more than happy to work with you and be able to do that privately in confidence, okay, without publishing numbers publicly. Just reach out to us, okay? team@singlestore.com. I think is one of those things. I did performance benchmarking many years ago as part of my research work. It's a very tricky area because you need to ensure that you're doing a proper apples for apples, apples to apples kind of comparison, which is fair then for both systems or more systems that you are comparing against each other. And secondly, sometimes for legal and other reasons, you are prohibited from publishing your results publicly. So in my case, for example, when I was doing my research work, I had to anonymize the products. I could not name them and say, this product is this. I just had to say product A, product B, product C, for example. And that was fine. That kind of got around that problem. But certainly, as far as this is concerned, remember, we are talking about JLucene. Other systems contain this, implementations of that as well. So out of the box, we are certainly, feature-wise, it should be pretty much the same. Performance-wise, obviously, there are things that happen under the covers to improve the performance. There's lots of stuff that we do as well under the covers to improve performance, but that's something that we can work with you if you want to do a kind of head-to-head. George, you're saying I recommend this project for benchmarks on dense vector search. Okay, thanks very much. Yes, that's great. Thank you, George. GitHub.com harsha Simhadri, big A&M benchmarks. Yeah, great. Thank you. Could you share examples of real-world applications where single-source text search capabilities are leveraged success? We have customers. Check the website. If you want specific customer cases, studies, examples, again, just reach out to us and we can point you in the right direction. I think we've got white papers and written up examples as well. So you're very welcome to do that. And again, keep in mind, again, as I've mentioned this before, vector search has been in the product since 2017. You saw in the slide deck as well that full text search has been in the product for quite some time as well. So it's not, again, not something we just added recently. Obviously, the JLucene is an update to what we used to offer before, but that is a technology that we have customers using in anger, in production environments. Okay, so Yuki, what we can do is that I'll do a bit of a search, okay, and give you some hyperlinks. Maybe you can share that in the follow-up email so people can actually see examples of that. So I'll do that momentarily once we finish the webinar. Okay, there we go. So I think hopefully that has answered most of the questions. There we go. All right, so I appreciate we're a little bit over time. Sorry about that. You always think, that you're not, there isn't enough to show, and then you find there's actually far more that you want to demonstrate in terms of the code. I trimmed down my slides as well today, and still I'm over time. There's always lots to show and lots to demonstrate. But as I said before, hopefully that's a good starting point for you. And the notebook is a good place for you to begin. Like I said, if you've got some particular data set that you already have, use that instead. You're probably going to be far more familiar with that than dentistry. Great data set as it is. Like I said, I'm no expert on it, but I was able to find a few words like optometry, for example, cavities, teeth, those kind of things, words that are fairly common. And it's reasonably easy to formulate queries, but quite challenging if you haven't got the depth and the knowledge of that. But it shows you the ability to index quickly, to be able to do those searches as well. So if you've got some specific data set that you are familiar with, by all means, load that in instead and try out some queries with that. Consult the technical documentation as well. Here we go, the BM25 here. And then, like I said before, if you're not quite sure where to go, just type SingleStore full text search into your favorite search engine, and you'll get to this page, which is the great place to start with plenty of code examples. And it can take you further and give you more detailed explanations than we've had time to today. And with that, you see, I think probably we should wrap up. Otherwise, we could be here all night. So. And you need to get to sleep, I think so.
I'm here. It's all right. So basically, I think we are almost at the end of the questions. So
Yeah.
if you were not able to take up your question, feel free to email us at team@singlestore.com.
Yeah.
So if that's all right, you can also reach out to me at maybe my LinkedIn or my email. Basically, my email will be mentioned at the bottom of the follow-up email. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure to include all the resources that Akmal has mentioned, including the hyperlinks. So just stay tuned. It will reach your inbox like in a day or two. So thanks everyone for joining. And Akmal, today's demo, it's actually reminding me to go for my dentist appointment. So
Oh, yeah.
that's there. I don't know, I forgot about it, but yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, we highly encourage you all to actually, load in your own data set and actually, use single store hands-on, because that's how you are going to actually, play around with it and get a better experience. So, and obviously we are here to help. If there's anything that you run into, there's any issues, Akmal is also here to help, and just shoot the question to us and we'll take care of it. So, all right. Thanks everyone for attending this session. And if you like today's session, stay tuned for more. We have amazing sessions that are going to come up, and I'll see you there next time. And majority of the sessions are conducted by Akmal. So if you like today's session, definitely tune in for the next one. That's there on, I think, 18th.
Wednesday.
So yeah.
Wednesday.
All right. So that's tomorrow for me now. All right. So
All
take
right.
care, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.